Gardening for hot people.
Climate change is real.
Save the bees.
Plant native plants.
You're hot.
We're all hot. Some of us are very, very cold.
Hi, and welcome to Gardening for Hot People, Planting in a Climate Apocalypse, an unserious podcast for unserious people living on a warming planet.
Which is very serious.
We're your hosts, Cheryl.
And Katie.
Just so you know, on a warming planet, we're all hot. Hi, welcome to Gardening for Hot People.
Hi.
Today we have Molly Janicki, who is...
Can you spell your last name for us? It's quite interesting.
Jan, as in Nancy, I-C-K-I.
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 Do you sing
That's,
it every time you...
I mean...
Well,
Nikki.
Oh, that's a fun one. See, I like spelling my last name for people because if I don't like them, I could say R-A-F-U-S-E. And I do that.
I refuse to talk to you.
No, I literally am like, I do actually do that. Like, especially when I'm on the phone with like someone from customer service who's particularly douchey.
It's kind of fortunate that you have that
I'm
ability.
like, what a
It's
blessing.
quite fortunate.
Wow.
I mean, my family is like very much like Boston, like born and raised. So it really fits the vibe. It's aggressive.
Use it. Work with it.
I know, right? We just do it. What's up?
What are we going to talk about today?
We're talking about landscaping don'ts and don'ts. From
Just don't
to,
do landscaping.
Yeah, just well, the thing is that I mean, I have feelings about just changing the whole landscaping industry, which I think is why I've stopped having such a visceral reaction to like being called a landscaper, because I'm like, if you want to call me a landscaper and you think like whoever's saying it that what I do is landscaping, then maybe all of landscaping will change forever.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got like a real like paradigm shift vibe happening in my brain. So I don't know. It can be pretty triggering though. When
Sure.
someone thinks that you're like a Moblo and Go landscaper. So Molly and I have talked at length.
Molly, our guest that we have here today.
Molly Janicki, so who is here from the north.
What?
This is going to be wild, I can tell. So she does gardening work just north of us. So I feel like you're like just far enough north and I'm just far enough south that like we barely overlap.
Hardly ever.
Yeah.
I don't want to drive all the way down here.
I don't want to drive all the way up there, so it's perfect. Yeah. So, but that's the cool thing about this industry, I think, too, is that there's just so much work out there that even when we do kind of like, bump into each other, it's like, whatever, man. There's a lot going on.
It's great to hear. I love that.
It's really great, especially compared to like the marketing crap that I used to endure when I was in corporate back in my previous life. But yeah, so Molly is a horticulturalist. She is a gardener. She runs her own company, and she does a lot of classes all over the place.
I'm recently a certified pollinator steward.
Oh, damn.
Oh my gosh, you signed up for that program. That's the
it's
UMass
so
Amherst one,
good.
right?
It's so good.
I signed up for it and then my life fell apart, so I'm getting back to it this summer.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to ask you about it because
Yes.
I actually don't know how to get into it.
That, honest to God, that was the hardest part.
I'm like, I don't understand how to get in. I think I have to call IT again. Anyway, there's a pollinator steward program through UMass Amherst that you can do online, and anyone can do it. You don't have to be like a landscape or gardening professional.
And it's really affordable too.
Yeah, it was so cheap. I was like, yes, thank you.
Honestly, I've spent more money on worse educational things.
Oh my God, truly.
What are we talking, like $10 or?
$200.
It's
Okay.
like a couple hundred. But
Okay.
like I've spent far more than that
Okay.
on some like online stuff that like claimed to be like really fancy and wonderful, and then it was like just
Of course.
I'm not gonna name names.
As is every yeah.
I don't know.
get it,
I
yeah.
feel like some of that online class stuff is just not as wonderful as I want it to be.
So we'll be talking about landscaping do's and don'ts. And
Don'ts and don'ts.
Don'ts. Oh, sorry.
So we're
don'ts
only
and
talking about
don'ts.
all the bad things that you shouldn't do.
And also, I'll note that Molly is not a landscaper.
I think Okay. So
Just because we're
We
talking
have to
about
back up.
landscaping doesn't mean Molly is calls herself a landscaper.
We need to back up because there was some folks in here and they were like, "Oh, you're the landscaper." And then we kind of like glossed over it because
Yeah.
girl is not a landscaper.
So sometimes what I will say to folks is if you start with the idea of a landscaper, that might be the best way to get you started on where I go with it. So, if people say, oh, you're a landscaper, I usually do a quick, oh no, I'm a gardener. And sometimes I'll get specific and say that I create and care for native gardens.
Okay.
Sustainable, and sometimes I get into it.
Eco-conscious and all that. But the problem I have with that is if it's like a quick interaction, sometimes people are like, wait, you what? A native what? You want a what?
We're just
How
at
is it
the-
eco-conscious? Why is it different? And then you end up doing like a whole podcast episode.
Because you're at the grocery store checkout, and
Yeah.
the lady
Honestly,
just wanted to know why you were dirty.
yeah. Oh my gosh. Wait, can we briefly talk about so I have my team we used to talk about this a lot. I don't know why we haven't in a while, but we used to talk about clean privilege because I don't know if you've ever noticed, but when you're like particularly dirty, like I've had people be like, "What are you doing here?" Like assume that I'm like homeless or something, and like get really weird about it. I went to a doctor's appointment once from a job because it was the only way that it was going to happen, and I showed up, and this woman who was like, the woman like checking me in, like nurse or resident, whatever she was. But I was like, it was an eye thing. And I was talking about, I was like, oh, I really need new glasses because mine were all scratched up because they were my gardening pair. And she was like, oh, they're pretty expensive.
Oh my God.
And like made it very clear she thought I could not afford
Yeah.
new glasses. And I was like, well, I'll just get them from like I Buy Direct, actually. And she goes, oh, okay. And then she said something else that was like very obvious. She thought that I was like not doing well in life. And then I was like, yeah, I actually own and operate a gardening company. And her whole demeanor changed. And I was like, is this how she treats people who don't have any money who come in here?
Right.
Um,
That's actually like too much money for you.
yeah,
That's
no,
so
like it
messed
was
up.
so obvious. It was so weird. And like, there's just those little micro interactions that happen.
interesting.
Have you ever noticed that?
Well, Cheryl,
Do you take a shower like 800 times a day or something?
I have a lot of chutzpah. And I think I walk into every interaction with a like, no. This is my room.
You run it.
So
I love that for you.
Good. I need to embody that more, I think,
Yeah,
because
no.
like I've
everybody
definitely-
works for me. I'm at the doctor's appointment because I'm paying your
Right.
money.
Yeah,
Right,
no,
so,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
No. I don't.
That's
that doesn't-
legit.
No.
Yeah.
You know what it is? I reject that.
Yeah. I mean,
They
I
can
think
they can project it, but I
reject it.
that.
Goodbye.
Rejected.
Well, I think I
Yes.
need to have more of that vibe.
I think that's that like hanging out with older.
What's your sign?
people.
What's your astro
I'm an
sign?
Aries.
You're an Aries.
Yeah. So you're just hanging out with a bunch of fire. 'Cause I'm a
Yeah.
Sagittarius.
Yeah.
She's a Taurus.
I'm a little baby Taurus.
You sound like
Yeah.
Eeyore.
Well, that's yours a great description of a Taurus.
That's true. So let's get into the gardens.
Yeah. Okay. You want me to go first? I'm so excited to talk about it.
Yeah, please. I mean, yeah, with that vibe, 100% yes.
In the gardens.
Okay, so as you know, I was cold stratifying some seeds, and I played hooky last Wednesday or something, because I was like, I was sick the week prior, and I was like, it's nice out, and how dare, like the only time I want to be outside, and now I gotta be sick and like go to work. Anyway, so I played hooky and I was like, let me check on the seeds. It happened to be the day that they were ready. It was 4/23 that I wrote on the little baggie, and I was like, okay, today's my day. So I had already gone and gotten like a little greenhouse seed planting tray. What the fuck do you call those things?
Seed tray.
Okay, so I got a seed tray, and I took the seeds out, put them in. I had some like compost soil or whatever from the local hardware store. Did that, planted some fucking ferns. I pulled up some of the lily of the valley, which those fuckers grow so fast.
God, that's
Yes.
never ending.
So while I was sick, I'm a stubborn person. So I was like,
What?
I gotta do something. I'm so sick of being in bed. So I went outside and like I did a foot of pulling of the
Nice.
lily of the valley.
Good.
And that's all I could take. And then the next time I could get to it, they were like a foot higher, and it was only like 4 days later. So yesterday I actually did another couple of feet of pulling them out. And
You're digging out the roots, right?
the roots, yes. Like,
Isn't it
really
fun how
there.
you like? I do think the one thing that's
Was
fun
fun.
about them is that like it's like a little like string that you're like
Yeah.
following.
Well,
Almost
okay.
like-
So when I was doing it yesterday, by the way, you last year for my birthday, you got me a tool that
hori
I've
hori.
been using to
Yeah,
do this
gardening knife.
And I don't know if I'm supposed to, but I have been using it, and
Yeah,
it's been
use it for
very
everything.
helpful.
Yes.
I love it, and it doesn't rust, and I know that because I left it out in the rain, and my other tools rusted, and the one you got me didn't.
Got you a good one.
Anyway, so I was pulling out the roots, and I was like, oh wait, what if there's like other plant roots that I don't want to pull out? So I just pulled them all out. So
Yes,
whoops,
pull them all
whatever.
out.
Just get 'em.
It's if it's lily of the valley, that's the only thing that's in there.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, they usually like kind of push everything else out. If it makes you feel any better, which I don't know why it would, but I found a whole bunch in my new house has Lily of the Valley, but it's in like little patches, so it's clear someone only in the past couple years put like a couple in.
Okay.
So I mean, I have to dig up that whole bed near my house anyway because it's just like
Is it in your front?
it's that's all Vinca, which also is going to get pulled
Yeah.
out. I already like designed, like I moved in and designed a whole
Yeah, of course.
garden for this house. But yeah, no, I've got Lily of the Valley. I've got what people call ditch lilies, which are day lilies.
I've got
which
those
are
too.
not native. People think because they find them in ditches that they're native,
Yeah.
and they're not. They're just incredibly hardy, and people like throw them out the window on the highway or whatever, and they end up.
Are those, should I be
Propagating.
pulling those too? The ditch lilies?
I mean, I wouldn't. So I'm going to tell you what I tell everybody, which is don't dig up a plant until you have another plant to put in its place, because once you pull it up, you're disturbing a bunch of the seed bank. And if what you have on your property is a bunch of invasive plants, that means that spot is probably just going to fill with more invasive plants. And it's really easy to get rid of daylilies. You just dig them up. And then the next year you might have a couple more because the roots might break off, but you just dig them up. It's not like it's not like the lily of the valley where you're following
Yeah.
a little string. It's like
And
you
some
dig
of
up,
the roots are thicker than the others.
God,
They're
so annoying.
and it's like goes all the way across the whole bridge of where they're growing. But speaking of that, I'm part of what I put, like I got root balls of ferns, hay scented fern or whatever you told me.
Oh my
to
God,
get.
that's one of Molly's favorites, and I know
Yeah.
that.
So I put those in pots, and I made a little baby greenhouse for that in like a clear storage bin, and that's what I'm going to put in place of the lily of the valley. So I do have
good.
something
Good,
soon.
good.
Yeah.
I just want it to grow up big enough so the buns don't get it.
Oh, the
They-
bunnies won't eat it. Just put it in now.
Ripped out her fern roots last year.
Yeah, I grew
She
up
has very
same-
aggressive bunnies.
Yeah, I got a lot of them too.
But you
So-
did plant clover, right, in your lawn?
No, strawberry.
So she was
clover.
we are trying doing, so she has creeping red fescue already
For my
in
grass
her backyard for
cover.
grass, so that's native grass. So we were thinking about trying to just add like native strawberry in it. And I've not done as much clover lately because it needs so much reseeding every year that it's frustrating to me. But if you have such a bunny problem, she's right. Probably adding some amount of clover so they don't eat the good stuff.
Oh, okay.
Is probably not a
Can
bad
I just
idea.
throw some?
Yeah, you could just throw
Okay,
seeds
I'll
down.
grab some.
But have you tried doing the native red clover? Or no, that's not even native.
It's not native.
It's not. I always think it is, and it's not.
Nope.
What is there a native clover in
No,
this
I don't think
area?
there is. I mean, there's something that's in the clover family, but it gets big and tall. It's not the same at all. But, it does all the nitrogen fixing and whatever,
Yeah.
like beach plant. But it's not the same at all. But,
Yeah, because I used to
mean,
think the red one was native, and then I found out it wasn't,
No.
and I'm like, what a crime. There's nothing.
No. But that's okay, especially if you've got bunnies.
They're going to eat it.
Yeah.
So it's going to be controlled.
Yeah. All right.
And it might keep them away from other
good
things.
Right. Which is, yeah.
Because they literally pulled her ferns out of the ground last year.
It was a different kind of fern, though.
Once the hay-scented ferns snuggle in, they should leave them alone. They're not interested.
Also, maybe it wasn't the bunts. Maybe it was squirrels. Maybe it
Or
was
groundhog.
chipmunks or a groundhog. We have every animal under the sun in our yard.
Like right across the street from the Linwoods.
Yeah.
So
What about like allium? Have you guys done any allium in there?
Not yet.
There's allium cernum is a really good one. That's a native.
and you can buy the bulbs, which is way cheaper than
And
buying
I
plants.
think allium cernum is the one that reseeds really easily, right?
Yeah, it's that one. Yeah. No, I would totally do that one. That's a good idea. You should put it all around the outside of the bed.
And because it's in the onion family,
And they don't usually like onions, but I will say
they'll taste.
Well,
I think
I got
they like a
them.
little flavor on their food, just like
just like we do. Duh.
like a bite of.
A
have you
treat.
planted that it's not native, but the millennium alliums?
God, yes.
Yeah, because
Oh,
I
God,
plant
yes.
those because I'm
Oh,
trying
God,
to keep
yes.
bunnies away. I planted them in one garden and the bunnies freaking ate them like down to the ground.
Oh my
and I
God!
was like,
No! Do you know the drumstick allium?
the drumstick. Oh yeah.
Oh my God, I love drumstick allium. I love the way they look in the garden. They're so pretty. They're not
These
native,
are
but they're
non-native, by
so
the way, but they're pretty.
And I did I don't know, they're tiny, so you can do a
Mm-hmm.
boatload of them. I did like 1,000 of them for a client that had a real deer problem. Fucking ate all. They just grazed right through. Can I swear?
Yeah. Oh my God. We've already sworn like 4 times, 5 times, a million times.
So okay, I have a little more. So not only did I put them in the seed, the seed tray, and I did some experiments in the circle garden too.
Yes.
So I didn't have those like stick things, so I got a shoebox and cut out some cardboard and wrote the names, stuck those in the dirt, and put some soil on it. And so far, nobody's gotten to them.
No one scratched it all up.
I'm putting a little gate around this circle garden. It's not totally enclosed yet because I didn't order enough, but that might be deterring them enough, maybe. Cheryl thinks it's not tall enough, but
No, I think it's tall enough, but I think that, so in order to keep bunnies out of an area, the holes in the fence need to be smaller than like 2 by 2.
yeah.
And
I just think it's like not even secure enough that they like I don't know. It's not like hard and thick like
you don't need it
yard
to be
fence,
like
you know?
that though.
But I mean like either they'll like get stuck in it or they'll like mangle around. I don't know. I feel like it would deter them enough because it's like it might be difficult to. It might like wiggle.
There's just
I don't
easier
know.
places to go. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I guess we'll see. But nothing has disturbed the seed
I love that.
piles yet.
Yeah,
those were an experiment.
For those of you who have been following along, we did decide instead of doing like a layered lasagna thing,
right, that
most
too.
of the grass died last year in the drought. So
there's just a bunch of moss in this area.
So we're just leaving it
Plant
for
right in.
ground cover.
So I didn't put down I didn't do a traditional layer. I didn't do the cardboard leaves and soil. I did leaves and soil on some of the areas where I pulled a few pieces of grass and weed that I saw. So just a few pieces. Anyway, so that's that. And then yesterday, I bought a cherry tree, a Yoshino cherry tree, something or other,
Really?
weeping. Because I know it's not native, but it's also not invasive. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, because I pulled that.
Did you get suckered into the beautiful flowers?
Yeah, I've been obsessed with these trees. I see them all around me, and I'm just like, I need one of those weeping trees.
And you know what we're not going to do?
Where did you?
We're not going to prune it like an umbrella.
Okay.
Well, yeah. I mean,
I don't know
it's
what that
weeping, so it's okay. But you don't. Well, yeah, you don't.
You know what I'm
don't-
talking about.
I do know exactly what you're talking about, but I want to make sure people understand it. She's talking about making it so flat on the bottom that it looks like a caricature of a weeping tree.
Yeah, you've seen them around. They look like mushrooms.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
It's a mushroom.
Oh, sure.
yeah,
sure.
we're not going to do that.
Yeah, not gonna
We're
do
going
that.
to prune it so it continues to weep and look beautiful.
okay.
Did Cheryl? Did you get this? Tree?
No, she was out.
I was
Where-
just out at
A big box store.
where I
I-
normally
So-
don't go. But
Okay, did you
it reeled
talk
me
to
in.
her about this, Cheryl?
She was really excited and it
called
was
her
only
when I was
$40.
there.
No, that's fine. Was it in a in a container?
What did I do?
Is it in a container?
It
Have you
is.
planted it?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you gonna talk to her about
Should I
planting
return
this
it?
No. Are you gonna talk to her
no.
about planting
We're-
a container plant? And because to me, you could do a whole podcast on how people do that wrong.
I mean, we're definitely going to talk about that
All right,
later. So
we're talking about landscapers and we're trashing
Yeah.
landscapers. Let's talk
Yeah.
about how they can't plant anything.
oh my God, they
I
don't
only
plant
got
anything
it
deep
Don't
enough.
plant-
yesterday.
Don't plant it the way the landscapers
Okay.
plant it.
Well,
So-
teach me.
Which
I
is
did
to-
some Googling. But
Which is to say that the hole should not be the shape of the pot just because you take it out of the pot and it's in a perfect
Yeah.
cylinder doesn't mean that you then pop a perfect cylinder out of the ground and put your perfect cylinder back
Into a
that should
cylinder.
not.
Oh yeah, no,
that
we
should
talked
not
about like plant butts, right? Like ripping the bottom off of the plant. Have we
don't
talked about
know.
that yet?
I don't have them.
Oh, good Lord. Wait, do you have anything else to talk about with your garden?
No, the tree was the last- the
We'll
last
get
part.
back to, so we're going to have like a
about a
whole
plant butt.
section.
No, we're
Yeah.
still talking about what's going on in our gardens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We'll revisit that later.
We'll talk about plant butts
Because it's
later.
part of the
You have to keep
landscapers
listening.
and how
Great.
bad they
I'm so glad for my own personal use that we're going to be talking about.
Oh yeah, no, we're gonna.
It's a big common mistake, so I think it's important to
my
talk
main
about.
concern with this is that I wanted a tree to replace the burning bush, which
Yes.
overlays
Yes.
my pond.
Yes.
I have a man-made pond, and so TJ, my partner, was like, "But what about the roots?" And I googled. Actually, the pond liner is strong enough that the roots kind of divert themselves away
Yes.
from it.
Oh, sure.
They don't go into the pond liner, so it would be fine there. But I also just don't know if there will be enough sun there, so it might not.
Yeah, like if you want
be
it to
able to.
bloom and get like really big and beautiful. But the thing is like that burning bush was huge and full. And usually when they're in like a shadier area, they end up a little bit more lanky. So I think it should be fine.
Okay.
And also it was only $40.
It was another experiment. I
Yeah,
suppose.
it's gonna be good. We'll.
I just want for the record to say that every plant that I've bought so far has been from Wolf Hill or like an appropriate garden.
like a local garden center, yeah.
a local
We
place.
had
Or
to go to Home Depot
Prairie Moon or
because
something.
TJ needed a thing that he couldn't get anywhere else, and
It's
I was
okay.
like, "Look at this tree."
Oh my God.
I'm not mad about
Listen,
it.
we have to go to Home
gardeners
Depot.
are
Like,
mad
what
at
else?
me.
Like, I go to Abishan or locally called Dawson's in
Yeah.
Beverly as
Yeah.
much as I can because they do have a lot of great stuff. But like, there's a reason why so many of the small hardware and hardware stores like just don't exist anymore. It's because the big box stores have
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Everything under the damn sun.
And I think that's okay. I think the point isn't
feel
that,
bad.
that you bought from a big box store. I think it's that, okay, now you have a plant from a big box store. How do you make that work for you? Because that's where a lot of people are going to get their stuff.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how do you make
That's
it
a
work
good
for
point.
you,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
It's
Fine.
because some people, the local gardens are not as accessible financially.
And
so
eventually
Yeah.
the big box stores will sell native plants if enough people are demanding it.
that's true.
And
Yeah.
someone did that at a Home Depot.
Thank
They
God.
made them start selling
About damn time.
those.
What's going on in your garden?
I mean, a bunch of Lily of the Valley came up. Something that I have a PSA actually, a public service announcement.
Bring it on.
And it's about my cats, so technically it's a pussy service announcement. So we supervise our cats outside. They're not like outdoor cats because I think that's really dangerous for both cats and for wildlife. But they just like roam around our backyard and it's very adorable. And they've been doing this since we moved in September. And in September, they had like kind of cut down every single plant for, move in. It was all just like mulch and dirt, and that was it. So this spring, when things started popping up, we didn't really know what there was going to be. And it turned out there were daffodils and daylilies, boo, and Star of Bethlehem, which all of those are poisonous to cats.
Oh shit.
And I have 2 cats that are smart when it comes to plants, and then 1 cat who consistently tries to kill herself.
Wait, is it Mab?
Yeah, Mab just loves a crunch. She's like, I don't care what it is. I don't care where this plant came from. She's
Just
like,
give her
is
lettuce."
that like a blade of grass-ish? Is it sort of almost kind of like a blade of grass? Great, I'm gonna chomp it. And the thing about like if they just chomp and they just put some teeth marks in it, it'll probably hurt their gums, whatever. But lilies specifically can kill your cat. And it is really, really bad for them to eat any part of the plant. The pollen is even bad. So I actually...
Is this daylilies?
Any lilies. Anything
wait,
in the, like
but
the
it's
actual proper lily family.
Lilium.
Yes, like lilium. So not like daylily.
Not like
not like
daylilies.
lily of the valley. Lily of the valley is like not a true lily.
So lilium
but like lilies. So like day lilies, tiger lilies, even like native lilies, like anything that's actually a lily.
But those are not lily. I'm sorry to get technical.
Are the native ones?
Hemerocallis.
Oh, okay. So that might not be.
But lily,
I would just be cautious with anything that the flower actually looks like a lily, because the pollen that is on those the stamens, I think that's what they're called. Stamens. That pollen, even if it just gets on you and your cat were to lick it, can like cause serious upset.
Yeah. So the lilium lilies, those are they have the same flower shape as the daylilies, and have that really sticky pollen that will stick to you, and those bloom in the summer and usually are fragrant. But you also will get like Easter lilies.
I was gonna say, so there's been Easter lilies out, and
a lot of people plant those in the garden after Easter, right? And those are lilium.
Yes. And it's also really common for people to get lilies for like funerals and things like that. And then you bring home some of the bouquets, and you're sad and you're not thinking, you throw it on your kitchen table, and then your cat eats it, and now you're an angel. Which is our local cat or animal ER. So we had to dig out like all of these things in our backyard before we could bring our cats back out again, because this one beautiful idiot just kept on nibbling things. So just be aware that if you have a creature that...
I mean, do it for the free range cats too in your neighborhood.
Well, they're not as dumb usually. Are you
sure?
Well, yeah, because they like grew up outside.
If they're free range,
that's on them, honestly. Well, we get to a certain point with even Mab, where like she'll like take little nibbles of things sometimes, and we're like, cool. Like I can't rush to the hospital every single time she nibbles on like one thing. So what we do is we put her in the car and we act like we're gonna go to the vet, and then she just vomits in the car. Because she gets car sick, so we solve the problem that way. But
hilarious.
Anyway, super gross. Sorry, guys, but
this is segueing into strange and unusual places.
That's what we do in this podcast.
There was a stray cat in my yard today eating something. I couldn't see it was so far, but it was pulling it apart. So I think he caught something.
Well, maybe it was a bunny.
No, I hope not. I hope it was a mouse that lives in my basement.
All right. Molly, do you have any in the gardens notes that you'd like to share with us?
What's going on in the garden?
In your garden.
So I don't have much time these days to get out into my own garden.
Bummer. Does that bum you out?
No, I'm super excited to be as busy as I am. Okay. I get into all my clients' gardens, and they're all gorgeous too, and sometimes more gorgeous. But you know what? I did go into my garden recently and saw snakes mating, and that's because we leave all the leaves and we don't do any kind of cleanup, and it's all still left over. So they were doing their thing. It's not about what's blooming, right? Like, I've got some bleeding heart coming up, and the hummingbirds should be coming to those soon, and columbine's coming up. They should be going to those soon. My gardeners, the work that we're doing in the garden is very minimal, still. I don't do any of the seed starting stuff, so that's
neither.
too fiddly for me. We are just switching over from winter pruning. We don't do spring cleanups, so there's none of that major blowing happening that the landscapers are doing right now.
Nor should it happen.
I'm focusing on edging and staking in my fancy gardens. Because I think that, right, like it's when we talk about what's going on in the garden, to me, it's like, well, what do we need to be doing? Everybody wants to get out there and futz around, but they don't know what to do. And that's when they pick up the rake. So don't pick up the rake, pick up your edger, right? If your edges of your gardens look nice and neat and tidy, then it doesn't matter if the middle looks messy. So right now in the garden, you should be edging all your beds.
Can you
hell yeah.
elaborate on that? What does that mean?
To me, it means I take a flat shovel and I go around and I stick it in the ground to carve out a little space of air between the edge of my bed and the lawn so that I don't get that lawn creep.
Interesting.
Keep that grass out of your bed.
So
Cool.
in any place that you have a bed that abuts your lawn, you're going to want to have a nice, clean, crisp edge of some kind.
Okay.
And
Cute.
that's the one that I,
You're
is
building
cheap
a
and easy.
waterless moat.
Yeah. Sometimes I call them the ankle breakers when the landscaper does them because they can be like,
so they have electric edgers, and that's part of the problem.
ditch
Yeah.
like that. And I don't necessarily need it to be an ankle breaker. I just need a clean separation from the lawn because if the beds are all a mess, which they should be right now, but if my edges look clean, then suddenly the mess isn't. It looks intentional.
Yeah.
Okay.
We do kind of a hybrid. Like we have some beds that are like the clients that have like kind of messier beds still. And then we have some where like, it's kind of, we're like straddling that line between like, they were like a very traditional garden and they're like trying to be more eco-conscious. So what we end up doing is we'll edge, and instead of like totally cleaning everything out, we put a layer of mulch on top. So then anything that's in there is still in there, can crawl out of the mulch, no big deal. So just for people who are like, but I can't leave it too messy, my neighbors, or like my HOA or whatever it is, that's meaning that you have to like adhere to the standard that has been set by traditional landscapers.
Yeah, well, again, though, that edge thing fixes it because if your front edges and you can do your back edges too, right? Like, I guess, again, like I've just lost patience. I don't. The people straddling don't. I don't come to me for work because it's just make the switch. What are we doing? I don't even like mulch over leaves.
If you have to.
We have fired her up.
No.
Oh, I love it.
No,
This is
I
what
wouldn't
I'm here
bother.
for.
I would not bother. Look, if you've got leaves that are up against your foundation, clean them off. The leaves on your sidewalk, clean them off. The leaves on your
Patio.
lawn, clean them off. Your lawn should only be there to be a pathway or to be played on. If you've got lawn that's not a pathway, that you're not walking on to get somewhere, or you're not playing on, then don't have it. Make it into native
A
garden
garden.
space.
Yeah.
And leave the leaves everywhere else. You know, I wouldn't even bother with putting mulch over the leaves. Like that's, I get it. Like you can have clients. I'm not here to.
Oh, yeah.
Certainly, I'm just saying. Like
We're just trying to edge that line further every year, and
Yeah.
it's like you got to just like educate people as you go,
Yeah,
and like
for sure.
It's tough, especially when like you've got there's like slightly fancier gardens where people are having parties and they're gonna have like 50
Yep.
people over who are not versed in
I
native
had a
gardens.
fancy client in the fall that made me bawl because I showed up and they had their landscaper there because she just wanted her front door tidied up and they just were, full
Leaf blowing
on,
the whole thing.
5 leaf blowers going on a huge property full of like meadow and native plants and like all this stuff we've been working and exactly they were having a party and she said to the land, and I don't, I'm not mad at the client, she wanted it tidied up for her party. I totally get that. It was ended up being a complete miscommunication, but they don't know the meaning of a little bit,
No,
right?
it's everything or
It's
nothing.
full blown, and all 5 blowers were going, and everything got blown away. So at that point, all of the leaves that we had collected to be their mulch were
For
gone,
years.
and we had to come in and at the end of the season do a leaf mulch. Now it's beautiful right now. It's stunning right now because we did very end of the season where they had stripped it all clean for us. Not that we wanted it. And then we got to put down a fresh layer of really nice
Leaf mulch,
and it's beautiful. But we're gonna,
But at what cost?
yes, and we're
And,
never
like,
gonna do that again.
No.
From now on, it will be tidied up around the front door and
Well,
edges.
And that's
only.
what kills me is that people also just don't know the difference. And I think we should move into defining some terms.
Before we do that, I had another question
Yes,
about
please.
a thing you said. You said staking also.
Oh.
What is that?
Yeah, because I do have some clients that have peonies in particular. That's
Okay.
pretty much the only
Yeah.
thing that I stake anymore. So
Yeah.
I have a lot of like little funny sayings because I've been doing this for like 8 million years. So I have tons of little funny sayings. This one is a little bit risque.
Love it. Let's do it.
I don't like to like tie things up or do, you see a lot of people that are like, oh, this is flopping over, I'm going to tie it up.
Yeah.
Keep the bondage in the bedroom.
Ayo.
All right?
Ayo.
I'm right.
Oi.
I
love it.
They should not be tied up. If it's tied up, it should be cut. It shouldn't be there.
Yeah,
It
just trim that baby.
Either prune it properly or move it. The only sort of somewhat exception, and it's not even tied up because they're staked, are peonies. And even that I'm, of course, particular about. I don't like those fucking metal cages that you wrestle with.
Yes.
So, right, peonies are like that classic. My grandmother had them.
Yep.
Everybody loves
yeah.
them. It's like
They're not
the
invasive,
intro plant.
so they can
And I love them
stay.
too. It's fine, right? But they do
They
flop
flop. They
quite significantly, and nobody knows what to do with that. And then they sell capitalism, those god awful hoops and metal cages, and they rust, and you're wrestling with them, and they look like shit. So what I do is the timing on this is really awesome because usually the March is when I'll start doing like my end of winter, early spring pruning, and I'll hit all my deciduous stuff. So in this case, for instance, I pruned a whole bunch of hydrangeas, PG hydrangeas, not the macrophyllus, not the little ball Cape Cod ones, but the big long ones that have the white late flowering. So I pruned a whole bunch of those. You can prune those super, super hard. And then I took those long stems that had the nice big dried flowers on them, and I jammed them in the soil in like like a square around the base of the peony that's just starting to pop up right now. You can just see them. And as they grow, that's
Clever.
going to help to support
okay.
and you might need to do more.
Yeah.
I actually have
Didn't
to do
even
a
think of
boatload
this.
more, but it's called pea staking. So anytime you can use
What you
twigs,
have.
what you
Yeah.
have, the stuff that's in your garden, and not only that, but they are nearly invisible in the garden because it's a natural
Yeah.
material. They just blend right in, and in that way, you can often just leave them.
Right.
Put them in once. You don't have to take them out ever again until they start to like decompose and fall apart, and then you just add more as support as you go along.
That's interesting that you say this because I have 2 peony bushes, or like what the fuck you call them, areas where peonies are growing out. And last year they did this flop thing, and I had no idea about anything. And I was like, I don't want that plant. It's ugly. Look at what it's doing. And Cheryl was like, yeah, you just have to support it or whatever. So
Yeah.
I got supports yesterday when I was at Wolf Hill, but I got like minimal. I didn't get the hoop
Just-
thing.
yeah.
Is it
It
just
was
like the U?
ring or
the
something?
2 U's to put around
Okay.
one of them.
That-
Yeah.
I mean,
It's a good start.
They're-
They're probably
yeah.
not tall enough. They have to be super friggin' tall.
It is tall.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I do have a second bush that I didn't realize, so I'll use sticks for
Yeah.
that one. Now that I
yeah,
know.
you can use
Yeah.
sticks. Sometimes too, people will like put the sticks and then just put like a string around them too. If it's like you don't have any more stakes.
Good idea. Yeah.
If you use twine, it's not that obvious.
I know. I'm just, you know what it is? It's because I'm so
You've got
lazy. And I don't want to do anything that's annoying or a pain in the ass. And like at all.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's totally fair.
I'm over it.
That sounds like a real Taurus move.
All right, let's go
Anyway,
into
yes.
defining some terms.
Okay.
What the fuck is that?
So we've talked a lot about like landscapers and gardeners. And Molly, I would love to hear your definition of a landscaper right now.
Oh my God.
Hit me.
The definition of a landscaper.
Like a traditional landscaper. When someone says
mow and blow, mow, blow and go.
Yeah. Yes.
They show up with a trailer and they've got a ride on, and they're going as fast as they can. And they're there to clean. They're not there to do anything else.
Yeah. So what's funny is that in Massachusetts, you don't, just so everybody knows listening, and this is differs from state to state in the U.S., you don't have to have any kind of certification to call yourself a landscaper. But people will hire people thinking, maybe you come from like an engineering background or something like that, where like you do actually have to have some kind of like serious certification to do anything in any kind of state. Landscapers don't have that in Massachusetts. In some states, you do have to be some kind of certified. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're good
Or know anything.
Also, you have to know who's actually certifying these people. Is it the state? Is there like an actual ruler, or is it just some, local org that says you are certified? So anyone with a, lawnmower and weed whacker can call themselves a landscaper. Sure. So don't just like, it's not like when you're hiring a professional plumber and you're like, I trust you, plumbing. It's like the landscaper probably doesn't, I shouldn't say probably doesn't, but many landscapers don't actually know that much about the actual plants or the landscape that they're actually working in.
Yeah, and so I come from the landscaping world. I think that's a difference between Cheryl and myself, is that I started out selling trees and shrubs to landscapers. That was kind of my intro into this world of it as a profession, not a hobby. And that was a long time ago. But I learned everything that I knew about the industry from these guys coming in with their trucks and buying arborvitae, and then I moved into, I would say, very traditional gardening. Should we define
yes,
that?
So gardener is our next term to define. So how would you define a gardener?
I would just say that a gardener is someone who works outside with plants on like landscapes and outdoor spaces. That's what I would say a gardener is. Maybe someone who does the plant
Who's
care.
got the knowledge of the plant.
The plant care.
And actually has knowledge of the plants. And that can be someone who does ornamental gardens, someone who does native gardens, someone who does edible gardens. Like I think gardener encompasses a knowledge base that that landscapers don't necessarily have.
Yeah. So I would say gardener implies caring for plants, and landscaper implies cleaning up yards.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Yeah, and I'm also gonna like push back on knowledge because because there's plenty of landscapers out there who have plenty of knowledge,
that is
and
true.
Plenty of gardeners out there who are lacking. So I don't think knowledge has anything to do with it.
That's fair.
I think it's a job description. If you're landscaping, you're cleaning yards. And if you're gardening, you're working with the plants.
Okay.
It's like a little bit more specific level.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
And then it just depends on who you go with for the level of knowledge that you're going to get.
Well, what I tell clients is that a lot of times you want one or the other for specific jobs. And that's why it's important to have this differentiation between like the gardener who's dealing with the beds and dealing with, making sure your plants are healthy and happy and functional and doing the planting and doing it properly. And the landscaper who's just coming in and like mowing your lawn and making sure that like they're dethatching your turf and like that kind of stuff. 'Cause I don't want to be dethatching turf, let me tell you.
Sometimes you can have both too, right? You can have a landscaper and you can say, just deal with my lawn, stay away from the beds. And you can have a gardener, but that's an expensive service, and I don't know that that's, something that everybody can do.
I don't know.
I would say
I've got a bunch of clients that do that.
I would say mow your own lawn and hire a gardener.
I would, yeah.
to take care of your plants.
Yeah.
Because
Agreed.
frankly, we have made lawns in this country really easy. It didn't always used to be that way, but now it is. So you can take care of your own lawn. But do you know what all the plants are in your landscape? Can you name them all? Do you know what they need and how to take care of them? Probably not. And that's probably why you need a gardener.
Yeah. And then if you're lucky, you get a good one that'll teach you some stuff too.
Right.
Yeah, that's how it should be. In my opinion, I think
Right.
that the part of the point of hiring a gardener is not only for like the actual assistance that you get with your property, but that like they know enough that they're going to actually tell you some stuff.
If you want.
Well, if you want. Some people don't want to know.
Everybody might say, just do it. for
Yeah,
me.
some clients do, but I don't know. I always think
best
people
ones.
who I know, just let me do my job.
Let me do my job.
So then there's other terms though, because I feel like this is kind of like the basic is like gardener versus landscaper, but then there's also people are like, sometimes people ask me, do I need a landscape architect for this?
Oh.
And then sometimes the answer is yes. Like if you're dealing with like drainage issues and like weird stuff, like potentially.
So a landscape architect is someone who is licensed.
Yes.
And make sure if you really want a landscape architect that is what you're getting, because
Yes.
that's an expensive and long, lengthy process. And don't confuse someone who is a landscape designer with a landscape architect.
Yes.
And again, there's like levels within all of those. I know plenty of landscape architects that are not very good and plenty of designers that are fabulous and way better than, so it's all who.
Yes.
But there are technical differences there too.
There are technical differences. I also think that this is an industry, and I tell people this who are starting out in this industry all the time too. This is an industry where you can go very, very far without necessarily having like proper schooling. Like if you are good at your job and you have the knowledge and you work on your skills, you can go really, really far without having a degree.
Yeah, because there aren't that many degrees available. If you're not in LA, what is there?
Yeah. And well, that's part of it. But I mean, you can't have like a horticultural degree or
Sure.
There's like ecology degrees and stuff like that for
but-
what we do. But
yeah,
it's
but-
not really necessary.
Yeah, right. Nobody is like, I want to hire an ecologist. I mean, maybe sometimes.
I'm like, I don't know about that.
That's true. That's true. But the average homeowner, right? Like
Yeah.
the average homeowner who's hiring a landscaper is not going, maybe I need an ecologist.
Yeah.
Right? They're just maybe going, well, do I really need someone? I hope they're going, do I really need someone to mow and blow? Or is there an alternative that maybe invites more fireflies into my life?
Oh,
I
yes.
hope.
And then my last one is horticulturalist, because that's another term that gets like thrown around. And you are technically a horticulturalist.
Yeah, it's really technical. And I feel like the only reason I got my horticultural certification was so that I could have something to make clients feel like I was legit. But honestly, here's the honest thing. The organization, this is going out. The organization, and I don't mind saying it, that certifies me as a horticulturalist is, I think, a useless organization. It supports the landscaper.
Is this the test that's like all turf?
It's
Because
like 90%. It's not 90% turf. It's a
'cause-
huge turf component. Nothing about their education or their support for the industry is in any way environmentally focused. Like they're just starting in like this year to maybe talk about native plants in their little like quarterly publication. But it's, and I get it. Like they need the financial support of the people that are in the business.
The big
and
dogs,
most
yeah.
of those people are the mow and blow guys, right? The giant companies that have 100 people and are
No, I'm with you because we actually.
Anyway, so I'm
went
technically
through-
not
Yes.
a certified horticulturalist anymore because I was tired of giving that group money just so that I could continue to call myself
Yeah.
a horticulturalist. And that's why I got the certified pollinator stewardship
that's
instead.
Why I'm trialing
fuck
it because my team wants to take. I'm with you, dude.
We're with you.
Because my team wants the knowledge. Like they stick around. I have the same people come
Yeah.
back every year, or at least some of them. So like I'm looking at like having them take native plant trust courses
Yes.
and like, maybe worry a little less about reaching for that, like being certified in certain things and just
I don't-
having knowledge.
Exactly. I don't
'Cause
think
it's
it's
just-
necessary.
it's
I
so
really
insane.
don't. And now I think that the certification is being used, like it becomes like an industry loop where they're like supporting each other. And it's just gross. And it's again,
cash grab?
it's
Is that what you're saying?
capitalism again.
Yes, it's gross.
I
I agree. I'm not.
like they need to
Ugh.
call their people certified so that it makes them look good. So they support the organization that certifies them.
Yep.
Like, come on.
Come on now. And that's what I mean by, certifications don't necessarily matter that much.
I totally
I
yes.
don't have any.
Well, that's why I like the UMass one because I
Yeah.
felt like for $200 it was the most value and I got a lot of education out of it.
Yes.
And then something where I felt like I could say, yeah, I do know what the fuck I'm talking about. At this point in my career, thankfully, most people now know who I am. And I teach a lot. So I think people start to see like the teaching and the speaking all over the place. And that lets them know that,
you know what you're talking
I know what
about
I'm
because
talking
lots of people want to hear you.
and I also, if people push back, they're not my people.
Oh, yeah.
I don't, and I know, not that I don't want to educate people because I totally do. I'm not here for the people who, again, I've been doing this my whole career. Like,
It's impressive.
so, you wouldn't go to your financial advisor and say, I disagree with your recommendations. I mean, I wouldn't unless you have a financial advising degree. And to your
Right.
point, there aren't those. It's just
For
the
this
experience.
industry.
You the experience is really the knowledge.
I was just going to say that it seems to me that I would value long-term experience over any sort of piece of paper.
Yeah.
That doesn't tell me anything.
Yep.
Well, in this
I
case,
would prefer
right,
the
In this
experience.
maybe not
case,
for your
yeah.
doctor, but
Not for the doctor, for this
course.
specific gardening industry. A doctor, I want to see the piece of paper. But for Cheryl, I don't give a fuck if she has a piece of paper or not.
Yeah, I have a piece of paper I wrote on it. It says, I am qualified.
I know what I'm
And
talking
like
about.
every day that we talk about gardening or plants, you constantly blow my mind with the level of information that you have in that brain. I'm just like, how does
You're
she
so
know
nice
this?
to me. So on that note, let's talk about all the things that I hate.
Plant talk.
And that tangentially we hate too.
Yeah, we all hate.
I hate it because you hate it.
I mean,
The sound of blowers.
Do you get texts from people because they know you hate leaf blowers this time of year? I get so many texts that just out of nowhere, just like, I
My
fucking hate
neighbor.
leaf blowers.
My
I
neighbor.
fucking hate 'em.
My neighbor. My neighbor's at it again. Why are they at it again?
He's just standing there. He's not even moving. It's so
Do
annoying.
you say anything to them when your neighbors? Do
No.
you, like-
No. This is from
These are
clients.
the yeah.
too.
These are the texts I get
Yeah.
from
My neighbor's
clients.
doing it
My
again.
my neighbors don't do
Oh,
it.
I see,
Yeah,
I
I've
see
rubbed
it.
off on them.
Oh, okay, good. That's
I
good.
mean, I used to. There was a property that I used to have, and the client has sold, so I'm not there anymore, sadly. But there was a client I used to have in a very fancy area, and she was like all in on like, I want this to be a haven for bugs, and it had not been. It had been leaf blown and mulched to within an inch of its life. So we had done a ton of work over the past few years to get it to a good place. Their landscapers changed and they showed up and they just started leaf blowing like everything. Everything. Like even things like they leaf blew like bleeding hearts, like the non-native ones, the Dicentra spectabilis, just and they were like lying on the ground. And it was just it was such a crime. So besides the obvious where it's like they're destructive, they're loud, they're annoying, they also get rid of not just leaves, but like every small little tiny like bug, egg, mushroom, spore,
microorganism,
like anything good that could possibly stay in your garden.
The entire ecosystem is removed when you start to strip away that layer, right? And that's, you need the decay to complete the cycle, and they're taking it all away.
And then people will be like, I don't know why my trees aren't doing well. And it's like, well, you have taken all of the leaves away.
And then mulched.
And then mulched with crappy, like pallet mulch
in
that's
a volcano
ridden.
for year after year after year. Talking about things I hate. Mulch volcanoes.
So like if this is the tree, if this is the tree for anyone watching, a mulch volcano. So for people who aren't watching.
I can gather from context clues.
Context clues?
Yes.
So it's like when we pile it up.
Yes,
So then like
yes.
it's like the tree part is like a literal, no, it's like a,
I'm stabbing my eyeball.
yeah.
Also,
no,
I will
it's the
say
worst.
we are rubbing off on TJ because he is our biggest fan. He listens the moment it drops, and he sent me a meme the other day. It wasn't a meme, it was just like an infographic of the two pictures of trees, and it said, don't mulch like this, mulch like this. And the first one was the volcano, and the other one was, because, we're both getting into gardening, and he's listening, and it was very cute that he sent me that. It wasn't even funny, it was just informative.
No, and
I love
he's paying
that.
attention, and it's what everybody does. And like every supermarket,
the hospital across from Market Basket in Danvers right now, it's all mulch volcanoes. And I'm like, you know what that is? That's a scam. That's job security for
That's
whatever landscaper is doing that, because that'll kill the
Yes.
tree and then they'll get paid to replace the
Yes.
trees.
Oh my
It is so
God.
annoying. Landscaping is a scam.
So true.
So again, when you go back to terms, who do you hire? A landscaper or a gardener? If you're trying to take care of existing, so I guess there's probably we should the landscapers. There's two different types. There's the landscape maintenance, right? Those are the mow, blow, and go guys that are claiming to take care of plants, are claiming to take care of your gardens, but they're just lawn people. Keep them out of your beds. And then they're the landscapers that, like build landscapes. And most of the time, unless they're really, really big, they're kind of separate, right? Like the mow, blow, go guys, that's probably all they're doing. And if somebody says, hey, I need to plant a tree or design something, they're going to be like, yeah, okay, I work with so-and-so, we call in for, they may not necessarily be the like heavy equipment operator landscaper.
Yeah.
And those heavy equipment operator landscapers may or may not know how to mulch a tree. But if you're mulching trees year after year, that's plant care, and you should probably have a gardener do that, because they're going to know that you don't need to fucking mulch year after year in a volcano on your tree.
No.
That's wasting your money and
also,
their time.
And also, if you are somewhere and you see a mulch volcano, I'm giving everyone blanket permission to destroy the volcano and level it out and save the tree, unless it's a Bradford pear. Or a Norway maple, in which case, leave it high and let it die.
Yes.
Pile more mulch on it.
Today's motto, leave it high and let it die.
Only on the pears. And Norway.
So on that note, though, I actually have a different little rime that I learned when I did take some horticulture classes at North Shore with Barb, who I love so much, who used to run the horticulture program there. She would say, plant it low, never grow.
Yes.
Plant it high, never die.
Yes, I know that one. Yep.
And that's a good one because that goes back to, so this tree that you bought, what will happen is, and this goes for any nursery, honestly, I found it because a lot of nurseries, even like local ones, they just get it in from the big place that grows the plants. And so you'll get your plant, right? And you've got the pot, you've got your tree or perennial in it, whatever. And then you take it out of the pot. The number one thing that I will find is that they will have layered up like little different bits of like soil, compost, fertilizer, mulch, and sometimes that will have been built up over time. So you can't actually trust, first of all, the soil level that the plant is at from the nursery. Because a lot of times people will think like, oh, this is correct. Whatever I've gotten from the nursery, that soil level is correct. it's may not be. And what you want to do is look at it and make sure that when you're planting it in the ground, it's actually at the soil level that the plant needs. So for trees or for shrubs, that would be right at the root flare, like right where the woody part comes down from like the trunk of it and starts to go, wah.
Okay.
Which if it's been planted really low, sometimes you'll see like some weird, like tendrily roots coming out of an area that they shouldn't be. And you just trim those off because it's like bark. If you see bark, that part should not be in the dirt. It should be above the dirt. And then for perennials, this will still happen too, where like it's been kind of like layered on top of with different fertilizers and mulches and stuff. You want to make sure that you're planting it at a level where like usually you can see like a little bit of like the base of the leaf coming out of the ground. And usually there's like a color change where it's like whitish at the bottom or a different color at the bottom, but not on every perennial.
Yeah, I wouldn't overthink it on perennials.
I wouldn't overthink it on perennials, but the things like peonies.
Peonies, it kind of matters.
It kind of matters.
If they're not blooming, you're planting them too deep. But perennials, It doesn't matter. I think
it's mostly the woody plants that I
trees
struggle
and shrubs,
with.
it's really important. And what happens is the container plants have been upsized and upsized and upsized and upsized, right?
Mm-hmm.
They start off as little tiny whips in a little tiny pot. Because if you start your whip in too big of a pot, it gets lost, it doesn't grow, right? So this is how the nurseries grow them up. They start as little whips in little pots, they get a little bit bigger, they get upsized. And every time they get upsized, a little bit more material goes into that pot. And it gets buried a little bit more. So when you get it home, you have to do some excavation. Not just some, you have to do a lot of excavation to remove all that extra material and find where the roots are branching out from that little tiny whip that it started as, right? And you can't always go by bark because roots have bark. It bark all the way down, and there is such a thing as a false root flare, which can happen if things have been built up for too long. The tree will start to sprout these advantageous roots, which is what you're seeing when you see little tiny roots coming out. What's happening is that the main roots of that tree are struggling for lack of oxygen. They're too deep. They can't breathe. That's what happens when they get mulch volcanoed, right? They can't breathe, so they're shooting out these advantageous roots to try to get some air, and they'll form a false root flare. You'll think, oh, I've found it because I've got some roots happening. No, you got to go deeper until you're sure you have a knuckle. Don't be afraid to take a lot of material off.
And that's the dirt that she's talking about.
And not just dirt. You will have to cut roots. You will have to be aggressive. I think nobody is, everybody's afraid that they're going to do too much.
Yeah.
I do a lot more than just slice the bottom. That fucker does not look like it came out of a pot when I'm done with it.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
And I stab it, I shake it, I spray it hard with water. If they're really, especially, only for like big woody stuff. And if I only spent $40 on it, I wouldn't take more than 20 minutes on it.
Yeah.
But again, it's like a time, but if I spend a lot of money, $200 on and I've got 8 of them, I'm going to spend a lot of time making sure that
Sure.
plant goes in really well. And the best way to do that is to get good root to soil contact. And if all your roots are bound up inside the original, it's never going to grow.
Okay. That's good information.
Oh, yeah.
I
That's the
love
good
it.
shit. And then just a note on perennials. So one of the things that we started doing, just because there are like tons of like weeds and stuff that live in a lot of these nurseries, is what I was talking about earlier with the plant butts. So when you get like a root bound perennial, we will chop the bottom off and mess up the roots all around.
Okay.
And so that's like, you really like shake it up, you slice it with your gardening knife, you get that so it has like lots of root to soil contact, and it can start making new roots and realize it doesn't have to grow in a circle anymore.
Okay.
Because that's the worst, is when you see these landscaper planted plants where they haven't done anything to the root ball, they just dig a hole and like drop it in, and then people are like, why did it die? And it's like, because it rotted in the middle.
Well,
like, there was
because
no
then you can
air.
like pick it up out of the hole and it's still in that shape.
So you really want to mess that stuff up.
Yeah.
The other thing is I usually tell the team to take off the first like top like inch or so
yeah.
of soil
Oh, more.
and discard it
Yeah,
at least the first inch, because that is where your hairy bittercress is. That is like a super common like nursery weed that if that gets in your garden, you're gonna be fighting it forever. And different weeds like that you don't want. You want just the plant that you're planting, unless you can recognize one of the, because sometimes you'll end up with like a free little columbine baby.
So my instinct was going to be to do all of this that you were describing, and I think I gathered that from my houseplant knowledge. Like whenever I'm repotting a houseplant, I'm taking all that shit off.
Yeah. Yep.
And then I'm putting it in. So I was going to do that. So that's good.
Oh my God, you're so smart.
So then I was Googling, and I was Googling specifically about this tree, and it was like dig a hole twice as deep as the whatever
All right, so
root ball or something.
Yeah, don't. My main motto is don't overthink it.
Yeah.
Don't Google. You. Okay. And I say this all the time to clients, and when I'm coaching, you know what to do. You are just. All I have to do is say yes. You're doing it right. Don't overthink it. Mm-hmm. Especially if you know houseplants already. Like I don't know a thing about houseplants, so it's not my area. If you already know how to plant a houseplant, you know how to plant this tree. It's the same thing, it's just bigger. Yeah. Rough up those roots, get it the way that you want it on the bottom, and then make your hole fit, right? Because if you start digging your hole, how big, and then you rough up these roots, and now suddenly your root ball is half the size that it was, and now you have this giant hole that you've made, and now that's gonna settle.
Right.
So now you've got to think about how to I think figure out what shape it is, make your hole fit, and then when you settle it in, that root flare has to be near the top of the grade. Make sure you're compacting that soil really, really tight. That's the other mistake that I think people make is they think they have to like gently tuck their plants in.
And that's a houseplant thing, is that you gently tuck the plant in.
Like the lightest little, no. I like pound the air out of every hole. Maybe I even will, like, if it's nearing the hot season, I'm gonna mud it in halfway. I'll backfill like halfway, add water, let it settle, and then, because I don't want any air holes. Air holes they're gonna settle. It's gonna be dry. We're going to get drought issues if I've got air holes. I want it to be so locked into the soil when I walk away that if I grab it and try to pull it, it's not going to come out.
Okay.
You should not.
If it does, you've done it wrong.
Exactly. And unless you're planting this in a super, super windy, high exposure area, you should never have to stake your trees after you plant them.
Okay, good.
That's the other thing that landscapers do. And that's another, I think it's just capitalism. It's another way to sell you something that you don't need.
I have been meaning to ask that question because I see it everywhere.
To you, like where you are, I don't think you need to be staking things. But there definitely is places where it is windy enough in this area where you definitely do need to stake stuff, because we're we're coastal.
I know, but even that, Cheryl, listen. I've got, I know we're in the same field, but I've got some decades doing this.
Yeah, tell me.
And
no, I love it.
I've worked on the ocean. You don't need to stake things if you plant them correctly. The only time I would say that's not true is if your literal planting material is sand. And I mean sand. I mean you're planting on Long Beach or Plum Island into direct sand, which I have done. Then you do need to stake because that is moving material. But
see, I'm talking about like when you plant something that some of the trees from nurseries will be like fairly skinny and used to being surrounded by a bunch of other trees. So like on occasion when like we're getting into like the windy season and the client starts seeing it like really bend in a way, that's the only time I've ever done it. And I do it like for like a year until it like is used to being by itself. And that's when, like, I'm not talking about like staking everything like all the time with the ropes I don't ever do that either. I'm more like those things where it's like this plant isn't used to being by itself.
You see that too if you get, especially with container grown stuff, it can get top heavy, right? If
Yes,
it's been in
and
the
that's what I'm
nursery
talking
for
about, for
too
sure.
long.
Yeah.
It hasn't been upsized.
but it's like the right plant, and then like the
Yeah.
client likes it. It
Yeah,
looks really
yeah, yeah.
cool. I
They
had
got
a
suckered into buying it because it had pretty flowers on it.
Oh
and
yeah,
they
no,
were
I've
the-
been there too.
She's talking about
but
me.
yeah. Oh my god, no, like
I just
So
love
real.
the weeping. The
Oh,
weeping
it's so
is
pretty.
So
well. The plant
Cute.
that I'm talking about, actually,
Charismatic.
that like I specifically have staked, 'cause I've only really staked like a couple trees in the years that I've been doing this, was a weeping redbud, and it was so expensive,
Yeah,
and it
they're a
was
pain in
on
the
Marblehead
ass.
Neck, and it was windy AF, and I was like, we're just gonna stake it for like 1 year, and it did. It survived, and it did fine, and like it was okay, and it was worth it. But that's it. No, you really shouldn't have to be like staking things constantly. If you are like, I feel like the one thing that I know we have in common is like it's the survival of the fittest.
Yes.
Like just like things that die. I'm like, I'm not putting that plant back in. We're
Yes.
putting something else.
Yes, yes, because it should be the case that so much thought has gone into its selection in the first place that it shouldn't be a frequent occasion where it doesn't work. And if it doesn't work, that plant is telling you something. Do something else.
And we're not putting something else in. That's the same.
maybe
we're gonna get
your landscape isn't built for that. Like we talked about last
Something else,
time.
yes.
There's woodland edge, there's meadow, there's rock garden, there's
Yep.
you know, it's just maybe
Yep.
that
And
plant
Molly talks
isn't-
about that kind of thing in her talks
Yeah.
too, a lot. Yeah, no, your talks are good.
What
So
else sucks?
the other couple things on my list are like, I still occasionally run into people who really want to use weed blocker. That's a big landscaper thing. They love a weed blocker. I did a design for someone local that I'm not going to name, and I showed up to make sure that they were placing the plants in the right spot, and they had weed blocked like the whole thing. And I see this person doing work all over the place, and I'm like, I'm going to fix those landscapes someday. Someone's going to call me and be like,
so depressing.
I'm going to cry. Like I literally,
At least
I put
you'll
this
have
pretty
work.
design together, and I'm like, why? Like there was supposed to be like ground covers. I'm like, how the hell is my ground cover supposed to cover the ground if there's a weed blocker all over everything? I'm gonna have to wait for that weed blocker to disintegrate over the next 5 years, and then the ground cover.
So
can
not
work.
only does
no,
weed
And then it'll
blocker
fucking-
or the ground cover will grow over the weed blocker,
And then
and
you'll
then
have to
what's the
rip
fuck's
out-
the point? What are you blocking?
Yeah. And
Like
then we'll rip out everything, the ground cover and the weed blocker, when I have to go fix it in 5 years.
So
just
weed
putting
blocker
trash.
not only blocks the weeds, but it can block other. It's not good for.
Well,
any
the thing is
growth.
it doesn't really block anything. Is it kind of like grows into the weed blocker? Like if you pull up a piece of weed blocker that's been there for like a couple years, one side will have the weeds growing on it, and the other side will have the roots.
It's just
And it's like-
temporary.
it's
It's a temporary fix, which is why it doesn't work permanently. It's not meant to be a permanent fix.
So I guess we'll have to take a step back, because when I hear weed blocker, I think you're spraying something. Is this like a physical?
She's talking about landscape fabric.
Or like a plastic
I see, I see, I see.
sometimes.
Okay.
It's
Like it comes in
usually
rolls.
black.
Yeah.
And people put it down because they have a lot of weeds and they don't know what to do. So they think, well, I'm just going to cover it and then mulch over it, and then it'll just be a bed of mulch.
I
or
like to think it's akin to like throwing all of your stuff that was on your floor in your bedroom in the closet and shutting the door and acting like that is like a proper fix
Yeah,
for
or
the
it's
situation.
or like under the rug,
Yeah.
and then you have like the big lumpy rug.
Yeah,
'cause
and it's
shit's
like,
coming
yeah,
up
this
through
is
it.
totally fine. It's totally fine. I think the only time I've ever used weed blocker, I did use it once on an area where there was gout weed, and the client did not want it there. They were like, understood it was invasive. They were like, I do want to get rid of it, but they had kid, they had dog. They did not want to use any herbicide. So we dug up as much as we could, and then we weed blocked it and put mulch on it. And I was like, call me in 3 years. Like,
Because it'll still be there,
it might be.
creeping around the edges.
So, but like that
And then
was,
you can like hand pull it at that point.
then at least, yeah, you can like pull out what's left. But yeah, that's the only time is gout weed, because I hate it so much. It's a fun little invasive
Ew.
plant.
So yes, weed blocker is not meant to be a permanent solution, but people don't know that, so they use it. And unfortunately, again, our landscapers are often also guilty of using this, and that's just a lack of education. And if your landscaper is suggesting or recommending landscape fabric in your beds, you should question them
And run the other way.
There is a time and a place for it. It's not there. And
Maybe like under gravel, you get like the really thick
situations,
stuff.
if you're
Farming,
rotating crops on the yearly basis, weed fabric might make sense, but it's not meant for home use.
No.
Okay.
I think those were my don'ts. I think we've covered a lot of my don'ts.
Can I talk about a thing I hate?
Yeah, I want that. That's the next
hate
question.
when landscapers use rocks for mulch.
Yes. Oh my God, I hate it so much.
Pebble, they call it pebble to make it sound fancy, pebble mulch. And I think it is maybe one of my top pet peeves, even worse than landscape fabric, because landscape fabric I can pull up. It's
Or as it disintegrates, you like kind of plant around
Yep,
pieces.
I cut
you pull
the
out as much as
pieces
you
out.
can.
I pull the trash out because you've put trash in somebody's garden. So now I have to pull that out,
Preach.
and I can do that. But when you put rocks in somebody's garden, they're fucking heavy, and nothing grows in rocks.
Yeah.
Not even the plants that you want to grow. If
Yeah.
you don't want things to grow, just fucking pave it over. Like, why are you trying to have a garden? Oh my God. I think it is my top.
Oh, but what about gravel gardens, Molly?
Well, you know what? In Los Angeles and places where gravel is a predominant feature of the landscape, I think that's totally appropriate.
Yeah, because then it's like a desert garden.
The only
Yeah.
place in New England where you see a landscape that resembles a gravel garden is when you're on the beach. That is a gravel garden. So if you live on the beach and you have literal sand, again, for your front yard or backyard, then consider yourself fortunate for having a gravel garden and landscape it thus. But if you are in New England and you are, which is a forested environment, anywhere where you're not in on the coast, there is no bare gravel.
No.
It does not exist. So what you're trying to do is completely artificial. It's the same as trying to do, house plants. You're trying to do something completely artificial, or citrus or whatever. It's totally artificial, and you just have to recognize that it's totally artificial, and it's going to require you
Constant
to
upkeep.
maintain it as something completely artificial.
People will read. So what I've found, I love this. That was a good rant. So what I've found is that people will find like some article on like the spruce about like gravel gardens and just really want me to do it. And I'm like, I don't think you understand how much weeding we are going to have to do. And they're like, well, you put down like, the block, and I'm like, no, we're going to have to weed. Especially, my favorite is when you go to the property and there's like a big Norway maple right above it.
Oh God! Yeah.
And then you're just pulling Norway maple seedlings all day.
I had to turn a client away that had a brand new garden just installed, and their landscaper put that in as their final touch. And, I felt really bad because I was like, I can't help you. And she was like, I really want your help. And I was like, I'm not going to work here unless you
Get rid of the
spend a
gravel,
lot of money to take out what you just spent a lot of money to put in.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. I always steer people away from gravel and like even gravel paths and stuff, because I'm like, if you ever decide to change this, it will cost so much money to get rid of the gravel, to move the gravel. Like no one wants to deal with the gravel.
Yeah. Well, I don't mind it. I do gravel paths all the time.
Gravel paths make
do
sense
gravel
if you
paths
know
all the
something
time.
isn't going to change. I've got the people who always want it are the people who it's like they're only going to stay in the house for like 5 years or something, and then it's like
Because
like,
it's a cheap alternative to like Bluestone Path.
yeah, but like there are so many other like we usually
Oh,
just
yeah.
end up doing stepping stones with like cheap little stepping stones, and it's fine.
Oh, okay.
It's fine. No, not the like pen steppers. I'm talking about like cement, like the ones that look natural-ish and from afar they look the same. Not the same, but good enough. They want to spend money on plants anyway.
I have a gravel path leading from our our parking spots at our house, also known as a driveway.
You're doing great.
Words are hard.
What are words?
Anyway, leading to our door, and it's so annoying. It's cute, whatever, but like the snow is impossible to shovel.
Yeah, my whole driveway is gravel.
Yep.
It's horrible.
I know what you mean. I just threw a bunch
We
of
have a parking
gravel
spot.
Hate
That's
it.
gravel.
into my
It
bed.
has to be,
shoveling.
I mean, like with anything, it has to be thoughtfully designed and built. And, and again, we talked earlier about a landscape designer, a landscape architect. These are all sorts of things that someone like that would hopefully consider, the materials, the placement, et cetera. But, I think we're talking about sort of the average homeowner that they move in and it's existing and, probably is not going to spend the money to redesign their entire landscape to include hardscape that works. Maybe some of us are fortunate enough to, and it happens maybe over time. You can do it.
I love a thick wood chip.
Wood chips.
That's my favorite. That's what we use the most.
That's my go-to when it's a cheap and temporary path that we're looking for is wood chips.
Well, then it's also easy to weed. I think that's way easier to weed than
So
gravel.
why'd you take lawn off the list? I want to talk about that.
Oh, you want to talk about lawns? Because we're running low on time.
Oh, okay.
Babe.
Well,
What do you want to talk about
It's
with lawns?
11:40. It's 11:44.
leading up to
What are we
how bad lawns are. Well, just that we don't like them.
So
No,
no.
'cause lawns have their place,
They do.
but-
They do. You can have a lawn as I think using your grass as a walkway is a great way. Just start shrinking your lawn by expanding your beds and making the lawn be your path. It's a beautiful pathway and it's a beautiful place to play and picnic and your dog should run around.
Yeah.
And
So that's why I skipped it.
That's fine.
But a lawn
I don't hate it.
for nothing.
It's the
is
acres and acres
pointless.
of grass that is useless, right? That's not a lawn. That's just green carpeting that they've put down because it's the cheapest and easiest thing to do that's not asphalt.
Yeah.
All right, I think I want a TLDR.
TLDR.
From Katie, if you
From me,
yeah.
okay.
What's your top line items?
My TLDR is Molly's not a landscape person. She's not a landscaper.
Nope.
Landscapers are just there for laziness, it seems.
Except for some companies that actually know what they're talking about. The mow, blow, and go guys, I would agree with that.
Mow, blow, and go just seems like get in, get out, get the most money you can, get in, get out, and like whatever. It just seems like there's not a lot of thought behind it, intention and
Capitalism.
and all of that. And
It's
it's
just
just like
capitalism.
another pointless. Yeah. Anyway, so and I hate it because as we know, we should leave the leaves, and they're there to destroy the what's the word I'm looking for? This is a part of the life, like the leaving the leaves and the life that lives in it. They're destroying all of that, and that pisses me off. So there's that.
As it should.
I mean, if I'm going to take away anything from having known you or having even done this podcast or anything about it's leave the leaves. Like that's it's leave the fucking leaves. And don't fucking bring in a mower or a blower to get rid of them.
blowers,
So that
yeah.
depresses me the most. And that's my biggest takeaway, of
Hell
course.
yeah.
And also, I would say, we've learned there's a lot of gray area in all of these industries, whether it's gardener or landscaper, and you want to do your due diligence in researching any specific one company to make sure. Because, for instance, I got that arborist to come down and take some trees away, and he was really well educated.
He was
And-
I was shocked at how much that guy knew and how much he was able to tell you about the trees in your yard,
Right.
and he was correct.
Exactly. Yeah.
We love him.
Yeah, so just do the appropriate amount of research and probably look for a woman-owned company.
It's not, because it's not a science, and everybody is going to have a different approach and a different level or a different experience that they bring. So I think it's important to talk to a lot of people, and I think a lot of people will talk to you if you're looking for help. I think a lot of people will talk to you who own companies who are doing this work to see if it's a fit, to see if their help is right, and so yes, it's not like calling up the dentist. It's like
the research is worth it.
Yeah.
And I think like the word of mouth is really key too. Yeah. Like I feel like I've gotten some of my best partners like in like arborists and even like patio people, gutter guys, like just from like talking to people, because like ultimately as a gardener you end up looking at outside of someone's house so much that they're like, you're like, hey, did you know your gutter's like falling off? And then they're like,
replace that fence panel.
yeah. And then you're like, no, I can't do that. I am not a gutter person, but I will give you a recommendation.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we're kind of like coming to the end.
Yeah. I will say there's something to be said for learning some of this stuff for yourself too. Even if you do hire other people. DIYing, I'm just at the start of it, but it has brought me a level of joy that I didn't think I had for the outdoors. Nice. Like I was digging in the dirt and didn't care that the dirt was under my fingernails.
Yeah.
Like that's not like me. I'm like, ew, dirt usually. Not because it's gross, but because I just don't want anything on me or on my hands. But I was all up in that dirt, pulling out those lily of the value
for dirt.
Yeah,
it feels good.
It did, and I was sitting in it. My clothes were dirty, which seems like nothing to you guys, but for me, it's like that's not me. That's not who I was.
Is it because you're excited? Do you think like you have all these?
It's mine. I think.
Yeah.
I think the house is mine. The yard is mine. I feel like I have this opportunity to connect with nature, and I can do that in my own space without being bothered by anybody.
So yes, and this is the thing that I think is the most powerful part of our work is that. I think we all feel so helpless right now with the state of the world and the opportunity to take this little tiny parcel that you have and say, I'm going to work to share this with my non-human neighbors that have been here for eons and will be here hopefully beyond the time that I'm here. And and work to share that with them. Like that is something that you can physically do that helps, right? And there's so few opportunities for that. There's so few chances where we can actually make a literal difference for a family of goldfinch or whatever,
and
right?
Like immediately. Immediately. It's like I always say that it's
and
one
flowers.
Of the yes.
You get flowers.
I always say it's one of the few things you can do that's like genuine instant gratification.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even if you don't have your own yard or own your own house, there's still stuff you can do. You can still make a
containers
little
matter.
Container pollinator.
Sure. Oh yeah,
situation.
Molly does some really good perennial containers.
And so like it's accessible. You can do something right now today. In some cases, your landlord might pay for it.
Sometimes,
if you ask them, I know people. Maggie's landlord paid for her to.
Yeah, she was like, I want to make it cute, and he was like, okay, here's a budget.
Yeah.
Like
that's our friend Maggie.
Nice.
Yeah. Hey Mag.
Yep. Hi Maggie.
Yep.
All right. So I think any last notes, comments?
No, I was jazzed by this convo.
This was
I
good.
Learned a lot.
I want to shout out the Turtle Rescue League.
Yes.
Which is a nonprofit organization in Southbridge that rescues turtles. That is what they do.
I love that.
As the name implies.
And
cool.
I volunteer to drive turtles to their facility because turtles get hurt all over and not everybody knows what to do with an injured turtle.
Right.
And they're one of the few places that is actually qualified to take care of injured turtles. So they do amazing work.
That's really good to know about.
And
we'll put their contact info in the show notes.
Yes.
Do you
100%.
share this stuff on your socials when you're doing it? Like when you're rescuing a turtle, do you put it on?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
It does. You know what? I'm again an older millennial, so I don't remember to reach for my phone quite as automatically.
Oh, here you are. I just wanted to follow you in case there's.
Yeah.
Give us your contact info. We'll put that in the show notes
Molly
too.
Janicki Horticulture.
That sounds
on
right.
Insta.
On Insta. Yep. I try to put current work stuff on there, though it's been a couple of weeks because it's been crazy.
Oh my gosh, don't even get me started.
Yes, so Turtle Rescue League would be the only other thing that I would like to
I love that.
to shout out.
We'll share that with everyone, of course.
Do you have any events or like talks
I
coming up
have
that you
tons
wanna...
of stuff going on. I'm going to be at Green Expo in Newburyport coming up on the 18th. I think I have a pop-up class that I'm teaching on weeds. We'll talk about native versus non-native and invasive plants, and it's just like a one-night class. This is in Newburyport also. It's just like a one-night class. Bring your weeds and your questions, and we'll talk about how to deal with them.
And if they bring you weed, do they get like a special prize?
That's for a different podcast.
All right.
What about you, Cheryl? Any events coming up?
I'm going to be speaking at the Topsfield Library. I want to say sometime in May. It's on the 18th, I think. I think also the 18th.
It's a Sunday.
No, then it can't be the 18th. I'll put it in the show notes exactly when, but if you go to plantmagic.shop/events, that's where all my events are. And we're still doing invasive plant polls at JC Phillips with Green Beverly every weekend, weather permitting. It's been really stormy a couple days lately, but that is still happening. And we're starting to learn more about garlic mustard and some of the more herbaceous invasive plants. So if that's something that you want to learn about, you can always show up. You don't have to have any tools. You don't have to have any knowledge. You just have to go to the Green Beverly website to find out more info on their events page. And that's it. Just show up at like 10 a.m. on Saturday and 11 a.m. on Sunday at JC Phillips in Bev. And that's it. What about you? You got some vegan markets coming up?
Yeah, I have a vegan market on May 10th from 11 to 4 at Odell Park in Beverly, Massachusetts, United States of America, Earth. And that's, did I say 11 to 4? Yeah, 11 to 4. It's all outdoors in the park. That'll be cute and fun. Vegan food, vegan products. It's the day before Mother's Day, so
fun.
Come get a present for Mom. And then Cheryl and I are doing a plant swap at my workshop space, Friends Forever Studio, on May 31st.
Oh yeah,
from 12 to 2, I
Oh,
believe.
that's what's on May 18th is the plant swap at Aubert Park.
Okay, you have
in Beverly.
another plant swap.
Yeah, I've got 2 plant swaps.
Yeah.
What's a plant swap is a place where you take your unwanted plants and swap them for plants that you want.
Or even seeds, I imagine, like other types of plants, either a house plant or like any other plant, maybe, perhaps, if you want to. Cuttings, propagations, maybe. I think
anything and everything. It's very.
Is this like I'm picturing like Dwight Schrute bargaining up from a bobby pin to an iPhone. Can I get like a Monstera for my columbine seedling?
No, you can literally. So like some people will come and they'll take like a whole bunch of plants. Like they'll bring like 2 things, they take a whole bunch. And then some people will bring a whole bunch of things and then be like, my garden is so full, and they take nothing.
Yeah.
It balances.
So it's pretty
out.
nice. Okay, so the Topsfield Library thing is on May 21st at 6 p.m. Just so that's actually out there in real life.
Yeah, so bring whatever plant you want and take as many as you want. The tickets are $10 to come. Cheryl will help identify whatever is necessary, and
what I do is I make sure nobody
space.
brings home any like vinca,
Invasives.
pachysandra, invasive crap like barberries.
Do we have time for a really quick story?
We are like so far into being done.
I was just going to do the outro.
All right, cool.
I'll tell you after.
All right, so I'll take us out here. Don't forget to leave us a rating or review wherever you're listening. You can find us on Instagram at Gardening for Hot People, and also subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen. And you can sign up for our newsletter at gardeningforhotpeople.com, where we will send you an email whenever the podcast has been unleashed to the world. And you can shoot us an email with any ideas you have at gardeningforhotpeople@gmail.com. And we'd like to thank BevCam for our production space and Willow McKenna for our music. That's our music.
Oh, that was good.
Willow McKenna does it better.
Brava. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
It's the only lawn I'm familiar with.
Yeah, right.
And I hate them.
Well, that's true. That's like the one that comes to mind, especially for us in our industry. I actually have a shirt that says lawn rhymes with yawn, which I was going to wear today, but it's dirty.
I love that.
I know.
I wear Cheryl's Kill
Your
Your
Lawn.
Lawn shirt quite often.